Kayla, who do your hair the best?
Dad.
Daddy, that's right, baby. About to work my magic.
My magic?
That's an interesting question, because what's a money problem? The problem is not having any. That's the problem. Here, let me cover you. I solve my money problems by thinking creatively. So what I mean by that is, like, the first time I wanted to get into the stock market, I only had 500 bucks. After the big companies had lost all my money, like I had 2,000 and they lost most of it. So when I withdrew it to do it on my own, I only had 500. So the problem at that point was like, how do I get more money? So for me, the creative thinking part was, I had a scholarship to Wayne State University and I applied for financial aid because I knew that they would double pay the account and then I would get the refund. And I took that $10,000 refund and put it in the stock market and started investing. I turned into $120,000, something like that, six-figure trading account. That's what I mean when I use creative thinking. Like, I'm always trying to think creatively how I could get more money into the system, into the machine. When I was working my job, the way that I figured out how to get more money, I was like, well, I gotta become more valuable to the company so that I can get a raise, so that I can get a higher position. So I got my degree using the tuition reimbursement program. I tried to move up the ranks. I got a commission sales job. Like, I'm just always trying to think how to be creative to get the money, because that's the problem. When you don't have any, that's always the biggest money problem. I mean, it don't get no bigger than that. The fact that you ain't got none, that is the problem. And you trying to solve that number one problem. In addition to that problem, you have to start asking, why don't I have any money? And you have to also tackle some other, I don't know if I would call them ancillary problems or secondary problems. So like what's a secondary money problem? It's like, I got poor spending habits. I go to the mall, I'm just buying stuff because I'm depressed, or I'm shopping because it makes me feel good, or even worse, you buying stuff you can't afford to impress people who don't really care about you. So that's like a secondary or ancillary problem. And I just solved that by not caring. Like, I was like, man, I don't care what people think. Like, when I had to move back home to my mother's house, I was like, in 10 years, I'm gonna be having, I was like, in 5 years, I'm gonna be having the last laugh. But in 10 years, I'll be living a lifestyle that the people who were judging or making comments won't be living. And I always think that's funny, because like when you're going through something, you know, people like kick you when you're down, or they talk about you. Like when I moved back home to my parents' house, or my mom's house, I say, you know, on the outside, I'm sure some people was like, he fell off. He moved back home with his mom's. But then, like, when you get on the other side of that, you get the lake house, you get the Ferrari, you become a documented millionaire. It'd be like, see, I knew he was gonna do it. I knew he was focused and on his grind when he moved back home. I knew he was up to something big. You know, it's funny how once you come out on the other side, people's perspective change. So most people start worrying about it on the front end, what people are gonna think. But it's really more about what they're gonna think on the back end once you execute on the plan. You know, I once heard someone say it like this. I wish I remember who said it so I can get a person credit. It was a young lady who said, instead of saying like, I can't afford that, or if you go out and your friends buy something and you like, oh, that's too much money, start saying things like, that's not in my plan. And it gives power towards, I could afford it. I could go into debt and get it if I wanted to go in debt and be like everybody else, but I have a different plan. So it actually gives you more power in saying no. And what are you doing? It gives you more power in saying no, because it's not because you can't do it, it's because you're working on a bigger purpose. So when you start saying stuff like, it's not part of my plan, it really puts things in perspective. I'm gonna try to part her hair and like put this in the ponytail and then have the back hanging out. Let's see if I can do it. I did it before and it was sweet, didn't I, Kayla? I really feel like a mom now. Cause this is how they be using their teeth. You know? So yeah, really getting control of those secondary problems, like unnecessary spending, going in debt for no real reason. And then once you can get control of that, you start thinking about, like I said, the initial problem. Why don't I have money? How can I be creative and come up with ways to get money? How did Daddy do? Did Daddy do good? Let's see that hair. Ooh. Ooh, look that way, look that way. Ooh, who did that? Did your daddy do that? All right, man, we looking good. Daddy daycare in this joint.